Walk through Dubai's Gold Souk on a Thursday evening. What should be the busiest time of the busiest day of the week? And you'll experience something that feels almost surreal. The narrow covered walkways that were once so packed with tourists and shoppers that you had to shuffle sideways to move forward are now half empty. Store after store sits with doors wide open, display cases gleaming under bright lights, shopkeepers standing idle in doorways, waiting. The energy that once defined this place, the buzz of negotiation, the calls of, "Best price, my friend," the constant motion of crowds moving from window to window, has evaporated. What remains is a strange, hollow version of what the Gold Souk used to be. If you've seen images of the Gold Souk in travel guides, on Instagram, or in promotional videos about Dubai, you probably imagine it as an essential experience, a bustling marketplace overflowing with gold jewelry, precious stones, and eager shoppers hunting for deals. That image is increasingly disconnected from reality. The Gold Souk isn't dead, not yet, but it's struggling in ways that would have seemed impossible just 5 years ago. And the decline is accelerating. The Gold Souk, located in the Dara district along the creek, has been one of Dubai's most iconic attractions for decades. It's one of the oldest commercial areas in the city, a place that existed long before the Burj Khalifa, before the Palm Jumeirah, before Dubai became synonymous with futuristic skyscrapers and luxury malls. This souk represented old Dubai, traditional Dubai, the city's roots as a trading hub where merchants from across the region would come to buy, sell, and trade gold, spices, textiles, and perfumes. For tourists, it was a must-visit, a chance to experience something authentic in a city often criticized for being artificial. But today, that authenticity feels more like a museum exhibit than a living market. Walk into the souk now and you'll see what I mean. Shops that used to be crammed with customers browsing trays of necklaces, bracelets, and rings now have 1 or 2 people inside, sometimes none. Shopkeepers, many of whom have run their businesses here for 20, 30, even 40 years, sit behind counters scrolling through their phones, glancing up hopefully whenever someone walks by. The aggressive sales tactics that the souk was once famous for have given way to something more desperate. Now, the invitations are quieter, more pleading. Just looking, no problem. Come inside, see the best quality. The numbers tell the story clearly. Foot traffic in the Gold Souk has dropped by an estimated 40% to 50% compared to pre-2020 levels. Some traders privately say the decline is even steeper, closer to 60% in certain sections of the market. Sales volumes have collapsed accordingly. A shop that used to move 10 to 15 kilograms of gold jewelry per week is now selling 3 to 5 kilograms if they're lucky. High-value transactions, the kind where a wealthy customer would buy an entire set of bridal jewelry worth $50,000 to $100,000, have become rare events rather than weekly occurrences. Tourist groups, which used to arrive in buses and flood the souk for an hour or two of shopping, are coming less frequently. And when they do come, they're not buying. They take photos, they browse, they ask about prices, but the conversion rate from visitor to customer has plummeted. Shop owners estimate that for every 50 people who walk into their store now, maybe 2 or 3 will make a purchase. A decade ago, that ratio was closer to 1 in 10. Even during peak tourist season, November through March when the weather is pleasant and Dubai's hotels are at their fullest, the Gold Souk feels subdued. The weekend crowds that used to make the narrow alleys almost impassable are now manageable. You can walk through the main corridors without bumping into anyone. Some of the side lanes where smaller shops are tucked away are almost deserted. The impact on the traders is visible and painful. Many have been forced to downsize, reducing inventory and cutting staff. Family-run businesses that spanned generations are closing permanently. In the past 2 years alone, an estimated 15% to 20% of the shops in the Gold Souk have shuttered. Some have been taken over by new owners trying their luck, but many remain vacant. Their metal shutters pulled down, collecting dust. The question everyone is asking is simple. What happened? How did one of Dubai's most famous attractions suddenly find itself on the edge of irrelevance? The answer is not one thing. It's a convergence of shifts in consumer behavior, technological disruption, competition from modern retail, changing tourist patterns, and deeper issues within the souk itself. For decades, buying gold was a tactile, in-person experience. You went to a jeweler, you examined pieces under light, you felt the weight in your hand, you negotiated face-to-face, and you walked out with your purchase in a velvet box. That entire ritual has been fundamentally disrupted by digital platforms that allow you to buy gold jewelry, coins, and bars from your phone, with delivery to your door, often at lower prices than physical shops can offer. E-commerce platforms like Amazon, Noon, and specialized gold retailers such as Malabar Gold, Joya Lucas, and Kalyan Jewelers have invested heavily in online sales infrastructure. They offer detailed product photography, 360-degree views, certifications, customer reviews, flexible return policies, and prices that are transparently listed. For younger buyers, particularly millennials and Gen Z consumers who grew up shopping online, this is simply how you buy things now. The idea of spending an afternoon walking through a crowded market, haggling with shopkeepers, and worrying about authenticity feels outdated and inefficient. Even older, more traditional buyers are shifting online. Why drive to Dara, spend 30 minutes looking for parking, navigate through narrow alleys, and negotiate with multiple vendors when you can browse hundreds of options online, read reviews, and have the item delivered within 24 hours? The Gold Souk's core value proposition, access to variety and competitive prices, has been commoditized by digital platforms that offer even more variety and often better prices. Price transparency has been particularly damaging. In the past, shoppers didn't really know what gold should cost. Today, anyone with a smartphone can check the current gold price per gram in real time, read about typical making charges, and understand what a fair price looks like. That knowledge eliminates the information asymmetry that the souk depended on. When a shopkeeper quotes a price that's 20% above what the customer knows is fair, the negotiation ends immediately. The souk has tried to adapt. Some shops have launched websites and social media accounts. A few have partnered with delivery apps. But these efforts are half-hearted and underfunded compared to the sophisticated digital strategies of major jewelry brands. The shops in the Gold Souk are small independent businesses, many family-owned, and they lack the capital and expertise to compete in the digital space. Cryptocurrency and digital gold investments have also pulled away buyers who used to purchase physical gold. Younger investors who want exposure to gold as an asset class are increasingly buying digital gold through apps. They're not interested in jewelry, they want liquidity and convenience, and physical shops in a souk can't compete with that. The rise of lab-grown diamonds has created another layer of competition. Younger consumers, particularly those concerned about ethics and sustainability, are choosing lab-grown diamonds or moissanite over mined stones. These alternatives are often 30% to 50% cheaper. The Gold Souk, with its traditional focus on natural diamonds and gold, hasn't adapted to this trend. Beyond the digital disruption, the Gold Souk is facing brutal competition from modern retail environments that offer gold shopping experiences designed for contemporary consumers. Walk into the Gold Souk and then walk into the gold section of Dubai Mall or Mall of the Emirates, and the contrast is jarring. The mall stores are spacious, air-conditioned to perfection, impeccably clean, and designed with modern aesthetics. The lighting is professional, highlighting the jewelry beautifully. Sales staff are polite, well-trained, and speak multiple languages fluently. Now compare that to the Gold Souk. The alleys are narrow and can feel claustrophobic. The air conditioning is inconsistent. The lighting varies wildly from shop to shop. The floors are worn, the paint is peeling in places, and there's a general sense that the infrastructure hasn't been meaningfully updated in decades. For tourists, especially those from Western countries who aren't familiar with traditional Middle Eastern markets, the Gold Souk can feel overwhelming and even intimidating. The aggressive sales tactics, the haggling culture, the lack of clear pricing, all of it creates friction that modern consumers aren't willing to tolerate. They want a straightforward, comfortable shopping experience where they can browse without pressure, see transparent prices, and make informed decisions. Dubai Mall's Gold Souk, which is essentially a modern sanitized version of the traditional market, has successfully captured much of the tourist traffic that used to go to Dara. It offers variety, brand-name jewelers, and the comfort of shopping in a familiar mall environment. Tourists can combine gold shopping with visits to the aquarium, the fountains, and the Burj Khalifa. Why take a taxi to Dara, deal with the hassle of navigating the old souk, and worry about getting ripped off when you can buy gold in the same mall where you're already spending the day? The traditional Gold Souk has also been hurt by the perception that it's not safe or that you're more likely to get scammed there. This perception isn't entirely fair. Most shops are legitimate and sell quality products, but the reputation exists. Stories of tourists being sold fake gold, being overcharged, or being misled about carat weight circulate online and in travel forms. Whether these stories are accurate or exaggerated doesn't matter. The perception itself is enough to steer tourists toward the perceived safety of established brands in modern malls. The broader shift in tourist behavior is accelerating the Gold Souk's decline. Dubai's tourism has changed dramatically over the past 5 years. In the past, Dubai attracted tourists who stayed longer, often a week or more, and had time to explore different parts of the city. A visit to the Gold Souk was a half-day activity, something you could dedicate time to without feeling rushed. Today's tourists are different. They're staying shorter, often just 3 to 4 nights. They're cramming in as many Instagram-worthy experiences as possible, and they're focused on the big-ticket attractions: Burj Khalifa, Dubai Mall, the beaches, the desert safaris, maybe the Dubai Frame or Museum of the Future. Traditional markets like the Gold Souk don't fit neatly into this new tourism pattern. They require time, effort, and a willingness to engage with a less polished side of Dubai. Most tourists, especially first-timers, don't have that time or inclination. They stick to the highlights, the places that are easy to access, easy to photograph, and easy to share on social media. The Gold Souk, despite its historical significance, doesn't offer the visual appeal or the convenience that modern tourists demand. Tour operators have noticed this shift and adjusted accordingly. Many guided tours that used to include the Gold Souk as a standard stop have either dropped it entirely or made it optional. When given the choice, tourists increasingly skip it in favor of more time at Dubai Mall or a longer beach visit. The souk has gone from being a must-see to a maybe-see to a probably skip in the span of just a few years. Chinese tourists, who were once a massive market for the Gold Souk, have pulled back significantly. Outbound Chinese tourism hasn't fully recovered to pre-pandemic levels, and when Chinese tourists do travel, they're diversifying their destinations. And even when they do come to Dubai, their buying behavior has changed. They're less focused on gold jewelry and more interested in luxury fashion, electronics, and experiences. The bulk gold purchases that Chinese buyers used to make in the souk have largely disappeared. Indian tourists and GCC nationals, who have always been core customers for gold in Dubai, are also changing their habits. Indian buyers increasingly purchase gold jewelry from established brands like Tanishq or Kalyan Jewelers, which have strong reputations and modern retail environments. They're less willing to haggle in a traditional souk when they can get guaranteed quality and transparent pricing from a trusted brand. Then there are the internal problems within the Gold Souk itself, issues that have been building for years and are now coming to a head. One of the biggest complaints from tourists is the aggressive, sometimes borderline harassing sales tactics that many shops still employ. The moment you slow down in front of a shop or make eye contact with a vendor, you're hit with a barrage of sales pitches. Some vendors will physically step in front of you to block your path or touch your arm to get your attention. For many tourists, especially women traveling alone or couples who just want to browse peacefully, this approach is off-putting and makes the entire experience uncomfortable. Shop owners defend these tactics as part of the souk culture, part of the experience. But what they don't realize is that consumer expectations have changed. Aggressive selling might have worked in the 1990s or early 2000s when tourists expected it. Today it's a turnoff. People want to be left alone to browse, and if they're interested, they'll initiate the conversation. The hard sell feels desperate and makes customers suspicious. Trust is another major issue. There have been enough cases of tourists being scammed that the Gold Souk has developed a reputation problem. Most shops are honest, but the bad actors have tainted the entire market. And because there's no unified quality control or certification system that tourists can rely on, they have no way to distinguish between reputable shops and sketchy ones. In a mall, you trust the brand. In the souk, you're on your own, and that uncertainty keeps people away. Price inconsistency is maddening for shoppers. You can walk into 3 different shops, look at nearly identical gold bangles, and get 3 wildly different prices. The making charges vary so much from shop to shop that it feels arbitrary. One shop will quote 10 dirhams per gram, another will say 25, and a third will try to charge 40. There's no transparency, no standard, and shoppers are left feeling like they're being taken advantage of. The lack of modern amenities is another problem. There are very few clean, accessible restrooms in the Gold Souk area. Parking is a nightmare. The nearest parking is often a 10 to 15 minute walk away. There are no ATMs inside the souk itself. These might seem like small inconveniences, but they add up, especially for tourists who are already hot, tired, and overwhelmed. The shops themselves are cramped and poorly organized in many cases. Jewelry is piled into display cases without much thought to presentation. It's overwhelming rather than appealing. Compare that to a modern jeweler where pieces are carefully curated. displayed with space and lighting to highlight their beauty. The souk feels chaotic, and chaos doesn't sell luxury. There's also a generational divide happening. Many shop owners are older, second or third generation traders who learned the business from their fathers and grandfathers. They're stuck in old ways of doing things and resistant to change. Their children, who might have more modern ideas about customer service or digital marketing, are either not interested in taking over the business or are being overruled by elders who insist on doing things the traditional way. This generational tension is preventing the souk from evolving at the pace it needs to stay relevant. The financial pressure on traders is reaching a breaking point. Many have taken out loans to maintain inventory or cover operating costs during the slowdown. With sales continuing to decline, some are facing insolvency. When a business that's been in your family for 30 or 40 years is on the verge of collapse, the emotional and financial toll is immense. The municipality and tourism authorities have made some efforts to revitalize the Gold Souk, but the initiatives have been limited and poorly executed. There have been talks for years about upgrading infrastructure, improving signage, creating better parking, and implementing quality control measures. Very little has actually been done. Promises of modernization have largely remained promises. The few improvements that have been made are too superficial to address the deeper problems. The broader implications go beyond just one market. The souk is part of the Dara Heritage District, which also includes the Spice Souk, the Textile Souk, and the old waterfront along the creek. All of these traditional markets are struggling, and the Gold Souk's problems are symptomatic of a larger trend. Old Dubai is being left behind as the city focuses relentlessly on new mega projects and ultra-modern attractions. The creek itself, which was the heart of Dubai's trading history, feels neglected. There are no major new developments, no real investment in making the area appealing to modern visitors. It feels frozen in time, and not in a charming, well-preserved way, in a forgotten, decaying way. This matters because Dubai's identity has always been about the tension between old and new, tradition and modernity, heritage and innovation. The city's tourism pitch is that you can experience both. But if the traditional side continues to deteriorate while all the investment goes to the new, that balance is lost. Dubai risks becoming a city with no soul, just a collection of glass towers and shopping centers that could exist anywhere. For the traders in the Gold Souk, the future looks increasingly bleak. Some are holding on, hoping that tourism will rebound. Others are actively looking for exit strategies, trying to sell their businesses while they still have some value. The problem is, there aren't many buyers. Who wants to invest in a declining market with uncertain prospects? The Gold Souk could have a future if it's willing to reinvent itself. It could become a curated boutique market focused on artisanal, handcrafted jewelry that you can't get anywhere else. It could lean into its heritage and become a living museum-style experience where tourists learn about the history of gold trading in Dubai. It could become a specialized hub for custom designs. There are possibilities, but they require vision, investment, and a willingness to change fundamentally. Right now, the Gold Souk is stuck in limbo. It's not dead enough to be abandoned entirely, but it's not alive enough to thrive. It's slowly fading, losing relevance month by month, year by year, while the city around it races forward. If current trends continue, the Gold Souk will likely shrink further. More shops will close. The market will contract into a smaller core of businesses that cater primarily to a niche audience. Serious gold buyers who know exactly what they want, bargain hunters looking for deals, and a trickle of tourists who specifically seek out traditional experiences. It will survive in some form, but it will be a shadow of what it once was. The question is whether Dubai cares enough to intervene. Does the city value the Gold Souk as a cultural and historical asset worth preserving? Or does it see it as an outdated relic that served its purpose and can be allowed to fade away? The answer to that question will determine what happens next. For now, the Gold Souk remains open, its shopkeepers waiting, hoping that the next person who walks by will stop, come inside, and buy something. But the crowds aren't coming back. The world has changed, and the souk hasn't changed with it. And that disconnect is proving fatal. If you visited the Gold Souk recently, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't been in a few years, the next time you go, you'll be shocked by how different it feels. The emptiness is palpable, and it's only getting worse. What do you think? Is the Gold Souk worth saving, or is it just a victim of inevitable progress? Have you visited recently, and what was your experience? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into what's really happening in Dubai beyond the glossy tourism campaigns, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.